we are officially live on YouTube. So what's up, everybody out there? People are following along here on the social media stuff. So I will, the Twitch stream, I will kind of get the stream manager. That's what I want. All right, cool. We got that up. So if you guys have anything, as I always say, you can drop them in the comments on either on the Twitch side or on the YouTube side. I usually leave the YouTube side up. That way there, I see the YouTube chat, and then I see the Twitch stream on my phone. It's usually a good way to catch everything that's going on there. So we're going to start this new episode of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. If it is your first time ever listening to it via YouTube or also via Twitch, basically what I do is, I record the segments, and then in between we have an opportunity to chat. So we will take care of that. And then let me get my episode started out here. Okay, I gotta dig through all my audio to find the opening and the closings. So give me a second. And I gotta make sure I grab the right ones. I want to grab NASCAR for rookies because people will get mad. People will be mad. All right, cool. So we're going to do the intro here. I don't see any messages, anything. Got a couple people watching, so that's always a good thing. Hey, everybody. It's Vi here from Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, coming to you live on a Thursday Thursday morning. I shouldn't say afternoon because it's not quite afternoon. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. But we're coming to you with another episode of the podcast. Hopefully everybody is having a great week, and you guys are dealing with the heat, as it's been very hot up here in the Northeast. It's been very, very hot. So hopefully everyone's staying cool. Everybody's being well. And really in this episode, we're going to talk a lot about Kansas, about the doubleheader for the Truck Series. We had Austin Hill get his first win of the 2020 season on the Friday. Saturday, Matt Crafton broke his, I think it's a 3-year winless streak. Matt Crafton broke, and he won a championship in between that. So very interesting for Matt Crafton. Then we had a surprise winner really on Saturday afternoon for the Xfinity cars. We had Brandon Jones pick up his second win of the season. So enter Brandon Jones into the discussions about the playoffs this year. It was an overtime thriller, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll back up to Thursday evening, which was the NASCAR Cup Series race, in which we saw Denny Hamlin pick up win number 5 of the season. Basically took one away from Kevin Harvick. They're late in their going, but we'll get into that. And then I totally went back and re-listened to the last episode I did. I did not talk about Quinn Houff once. So we're going to talk about Quinn Houff. We're going to talk about that really on the other side of this break. We're going to talk about that on the top. Then we'll break it into the Kansas recap, and then we'll go over some news and whatever is going on at Hendrick Motorsports, whether they're going to keep 4 cars or going to go 3. We'll talk about that because I know that will be a topic of discussion for you guys. So we'll catch you guys all up on that. This is the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast hosted by Bobby Bailey. And that's it. That's literally an intro. Not the greatest one ever, but it works. It's good enough. Throw this in here. It's going to go there. All right. We will go to the next segment here. All right, guys. So as I teased on the front side of the break, we were going to talk about Quinn Half. And listen, I didn't really get the chance to talk about last episode. I kind of got distracted at the end there. Had a couple little things come on and pop up on me, so I got a little distracted there at the end, and I kind of backtracked and talked about the same thing I talked about literally on the first side of the break there. So Quinn Half. For those of you that don't know, Quinn Half is a rookie basically this year in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's driving the 00 for Starcom Racing, which had Landon Castle in the car last year and a little bit of the year before that. And Quinn's kind of a quick ascension into NASCAR Cup Series has been a little bit of a topic of discussion, especially if you listen to Door Bumper Clear over on Dale Jr.'s Dirty Mo Radio in their podcast series. Quinn's quite a regular person they talk about, especially in the spotter community, because of his, I guess you could say, how slow his car usually is on the racetrack. They're usually in the way more than they're not. And sometimes Quinn doesn't always, get out of the way of the driver that's coming behind him. And, I've talked about this, I think once before, about being mindful of where you are on the racetrack and being mindful of who's coming up behind you, what drivers are coming up behind you, and it's listen, it's both of their jobs. It's the driver's job, but it's also the spotter's job too, to let them know where that driver is on the racetrack and where they're running. Are they running up top? Are they running down low? Where is Quinn going to be best suited to run so he's out of that driver's way? And I don't know exactly what happened. I mean, I don't think any of us know exactly what happened, but I guess Quinn had to get to pit road. And this is going back to the race at Texas. He had to get to pit road, and I don't know if he got told late, he heard it late, whatever happened, but he was running about the middle to the lower side of the high groove there at Texas Motor Speedway. And he decides that it's time for him to go to pit road now because it's coming up later and later. And to your breaking point, and he just decides to turn down and basically gets into the 95 of Christopher Bell, ruining his day. Bell hit the wall and stuff, and that accident really should have been avoided for a couple of reasons. A, you have a spotter, and I know his spotter probably told him, coming inside, but it's also your job as a driver to be focused on what is the task at hand and to know that there are guys coming on the inside of you. Now, he put up a social media post and basically hasn't been on social media supposedly since, that his mirror, his spotter's mirror, basically, which is a little tiny, circular mirror. It's probably a couple, 3 inches in diameter that the drivers put basically on part of the roll cage that the guys use as kind of like a handle to get out of the car. Because in these stock cars, there's not a lot to grab onto if you're trying to climb out of that race car. So there's usually like part of the roll cage by the window net the guys use as basically like a bar to pull themselves out of. So a lot of the guys, what they do now is they put a mirror there. And like I said, it's about a 2-3 inch in diameter mirror they put on this bar, and they kind of Velcro it or zip tie it to the bar. And it allows the guys to look in that mirror and see if someone's directly on their inside, because it's kind of like a blind spot in these cars. So what he was referring to was that particular mirror, and it broke off, or I guess however they had it fastened to that bar, it broke off, whether it was a zip tie or like I said, Velcro or some other way they fastened it onto that bar. It broke during the middle of the race. So he really couldn't see to his inside. His words, not mine. So one of the things that really got, I think, Quinn going was all the people, the Monday morning quarterbacks, like, oh my God, how can't you see him coming? This, that, and the other. And it is hard to see. I'm not defending Quinn, but what I'm saying is that it is hard to see directly to your inside in these cars. This isn't back in the 90s where guys had better peripheral vision. This is, the seats, have the headrests which extend far, they basically come to here. All right. Then you have a helmet, which is, it's not again, not like the 90s where, you have Dale Earnhardt out there with the goggles and you could kind of see out the bottom of your face and you might be able to see. So you have the headrest, you have the Hans device, which is already holding you in the car further back than you used to. You used to be able to wiggle around in these things. Now you can't even move. I mean, these guys are literally fastened into their seats and they're sitting back and like I said, the headrests come up to about here on you, and you really just have no sight at all. So these guys are more and more dependent on their spotters, and like I said, with that mirror broken off, it was kind of a recipe for disaster. But again, I do put a lot of the blame on Quinn not understanding. Hey, listen, I can't see on my inside. I want my, my spotter's got to clear me down low all the way down to the bottom. Now, did he tell his spotter that? So it really does open up the Pandora's box when it comes to it. And then the discussion becomes, should Quinn Houff be a Cup Series driver? And, we've talked about this, maybe in other episodes, and we've talked about this topic, but Quinn's in this seat because Quinn has some do-re-mi. Okay, let's not beat around the bush here. He has some do-re-mi, and when you have money and you have a team like Starcom, which is it's a startup Cup team. This is a team that's come to the series within the last 5 years. The company Starcom is actually a locally based firm. They're based out of New Jersey, out of North Jersey, basically, not too far from where I live, and it's a small telecom company. They do a lot of the stuff for bigger cable companies. They work for Altice, which owns Optimum now, and some of those outfits. They work for the cable company, so they make decent money. They're not a bad business, but they're also not the richest group of people in the world. So they're looking for drivers to drive their cars that can bring in funding, and Quinn is brought some funding. Let's not beat around the bush either. Landon Castle was a great driver for them. Landon has been around the sport for a long time, and Landon doesn't command the sponsorship dollars that Quinn Houff apparently has demanded. So that's where I say the old expression, money talks and BS walks. Well, that's where that comes from, because if you're looking at a pure performance based decision, there's nothing you could say that Quinn Houff has that Landon Castle didn't have. Landon Castle has run top 15 and basically, old equipment over when he was driving at Morgan Shepherd's team. And he's shown throughout his career he can run in under funded ventures, and he can get the most out of those cars. But then people say, well, when he was at Hendrick, he drove the 5-car in the Busch Series. He couldn't do anything, this, that, and the other. So, yeah, okay. But there's a lot of guys that sometimes get in funded equipment and can't do it because, maybe they've come to the Cup Series or come to the Busch Series or Xfinity Series now, as it's called, too soon. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit with Christopher Bell. And I've said this, early in the year. I still think as great as Christopher was, his 2 years in Xfinity, he could have used another year. And I think Noah Gragson's going to be in a car for another year, because I just don't see Noah in a Cup car next year. And we'll and that's a little later in the episode when we talk about the whole Hendrick thing. But getting back to Quinn, it's a pure money deal. It's one of those situations that you wish that NASCAR would at least make guys run partial or full seasons in some of these lower series before they just let them walk into a Cup car. If you look at his stats, he only has a handful of Xfinity races. He has a handful of truck races. I believe, or if it's not trucks, it's definitely ARCA. He has a handful of starts. He probably has 10 to 15 starts before he drove Cup in a stock car. At least that's NASCAR sanctioned, which is tough. I mean, that's a tough ask of a young man. To get in a Cup car and be competitive, or at least know to get out of the way. And I think a lot of people have been killing Quinn on this. So I'm not trying to kill him. That's why I was trying to, in the beginning, try to tell you guys it is hard to see in these cars. It's not easy. This isn't like you and I driving our passenger vehicles and you could literally turn your head and look and see, wow, there's a car on the inside of me. I shouldn't be, I got to make sure I don't hit this car. It's not that easy. So these guys, have things they have to work through. But like I said, I think some of it comes with experience of knowing when a car's on your inside. So, Quinn Houff to me doesn't get a pass, but it is what it is. A very heated discussion. Two guys, we talked about Christopher Bell, and then Matt DiBenedetto also suffered some damage because he bounced off of Quinn as well. So not only did Quinn ruin one driver's day, he ruined two drivers' day, which is, I think, what a lot of people was upset about was that it wasn't just Christopher Bell, it was Matt DiBenedetto, who's kind of flirting with that playoff bubble line and stuff like that. And you want to see the 21 team get into the playoffs. So kind of a rough deal for everybody. But like I said, at the end of the day, just a tough situation, but one that if you sit there and understand it, it is preventable. I mean, NASCAR should do a better job of enforcing these guys to run some of these lower series first before they get into these cup cars, because it is the premier racing series of the world when it comes to stock car auto racing. There's nothing greater than NASCAR when it comes to racing a stock car. So I think they got to do a better job of that. Now, I heard Brad Keselowski's comments. Brad wants guys demoted if they cause so many accidents. And, I think Brad's got to look back at history, and there's been guys that have caused accidents, especially rookies. I don't know if Brad remembers, because Brad was probably young when this happened, but I remember, I was 4, so I don't really vividly remember it. But I remember as I got older, you would go back and watch races from 93, basically. Jeff Gordon tore up every race car known to man. Jeff caused a lot of accidents. But you don't see people that were begging, NASCAR to take Jeff Gordon off the racetrack. After he started proving himself, after he started winning races, you didn't see people begging NASCAR to get Jeff Gordon off the racetrack. Maybe in the very beginning when Jeff was, first starting, was a rookie and was tearing stuff up, maybe guys were getting angry at Jeff for causing accidents and stuff. But I think the people that were the most mad at him was his own team, because they were fixing his cars constantly. So I think that the demotion thing is kind of silly. I don't know how you enforce it, because realistically, there's only a couple guys that I can think of that would even meet the demotion qualifications. Quinn could if he causes more accidents. But a lot of the guys that are out there that run slow are good enough, and they're smart enough to get out of the way. So I don't think a demotion thing is really going to do what Brad thinks it's going to do. I think it's just going to, I think instead of demotion, it should be the promotions should be harder to get. There should be something that you have to accomplish before you get into the higher series. And I'm not saying these guys have to win races. I'm saying these guys got to get maybe 10, 12, 13 races under their belt before they're allowed to go to a cup car, especially in these lower series. We've seen it time and time again where guys that basically show up, they run a handful of Xfinity races, and all of a sudden they're cup drivers. Look at, you want to go back far enough. You want to go back to 2010, 2011, Kevin Conway. Kevin Conway has Extends as a sponsor, right? And Extends doesn't want to be in the Xfinity series. Extends doesn't want to be in the truck series and all that. But he goes and runs a few races in each one of these series. And next thing you know, Kevin Conway is driving a cup car at Front Row Motorsports and basically is junking every car he gets. Then he's bouncing around. Then he's at Robbie Gordon's team. Then he's driving for Joe Nemechek. Then he's driving for this one and that one because, Front Row got tired of it and said, listen, we're trying to build our operation. We're trying to be a legit team. And, we can't have you wrecking all these race cars. We thought that you were going to actually come in and be a competent driver and be somebody that would help us build our team up because we're looking for funding and he has the funding. But we also got to make sure that we're protecting our investment and having these race cars that, we're not going out and buying new race cars every day, every week. And that was part of the problem and why that didn't work out for Kevin Conway. But that was part of the reason why I think they really struggled there. But he's another example of somebody I would say that, got into a cup car and just was too raw to be in a cup car. And it happens to some people. You look at BK Racing. BK Racing was famous for taking guys that were, maybe not exactly ready for the Cup Series. You look at DiBenedetto, okay? Now, Matt didn't tear stuff up, I want to clarify that right at the top. I don't want people to think, oh, you're killing D Benedetto. No, D Benedetto drove in the Busch Series for the Xfinity Series for a little bit, albeit he wasn't as successful in the Xfinity Series as probably he would like to have been. But he drove for Gibbs and he drove for, I think, one or two other teams, and he was looking for an opportunity to, put his name out there. And he got a seat at the 83 car, drove that car, impressed a lot of people and was able to get in, and he ended up at Go Fast, drove there for a couple years. After his deal at BK kind of went by the wayside, went to Go Fast, and then he ended up with the 95 for Levine Family Racing last year, and then this year he's in the 21 with the Wood Brothers. So there's been times where it's worked, but then there's times where it hasn't worked. And a guy I look at is Ryan Truex. Ryan Truex, it's always been a funding thing with Ryan, but if you look, Ryan went from basically K&N East, Michael Waltrip Racing basically threw him in an Xfinity car, and I don't think he was very ready for that jump. I really think Ryan, I don't know what Ryan's personal thoughts are, but I feel like Ryan was better suited being in a truck first, and then going Xfinity, because the leap from K&N to Nationwide at that time when he made that leap was huge. This isn't like today where, Haley Deegan's running a car, an ARCA that's very similar to the Xfinity car. These cars aren't the same cars. Back in 9, 10, 11, when Ryan Truex went from being a two-time K&N East champion to driving for Michael Waltrip Racing. And, Ryan had some limited starts in that car. Then the team folded, and Ryan was sort of, floating around and trying to get rides and trying to get here and there. He ends up basically going back to the truck series, ran a full-time season with Shiggy Hattori, and basically was told, listen, if you don't have funding, you're out. And he was out. Then he gets replaced by Brett Moffitt, who goes and wins the championship a couple years ago. And then Moffitt leaves, and he goes over to GMS Racing. But Ryan Truex, in the meantime, ends up in the Xfinity Series, again, driving for Matt Collig and Collig Racing, driving the 11 car. And same kind of deal happens there. He gets kicked out of the car because he doesn't have enough funding at the end of the season. And then where does he end up? Well, he ends up at Junior Motorsports last year. And he's driving a limited schedule in the 8 car. And, they had some mediocre results. Some of it was mechanical. It wasn't all Ryan. But, and then where does he end up this year? Now he's in the Nice 40 in the truck series. So he went back to the trucks. He's running a partial truck schedule. He's not running full-time in the trucks. He's running a partial truck schedule. So, but I don't say, and I'm not trying to say that Ryan is Quinn Houff, because he's not. But if you look, he's kind of been all over the map. He was in a Cup car. And, when he was in the Cup car, he wasn't running spectacular. It wasn't like Ryan Truex was running top 15 in this stuff. This stuff was not capable of that. I understand that. But Ryan is an example, again, of another cautionary tale of a guy being jumped up to the higher series quickly. And, maybe NASCAR's got to do something to prevent some of this going on. Not every single one of these guys is going to turn out like a Joey Logano. I mean, you remember Joey Logano. Joey drove, 2 partial seasons at least before he jumped in a Cup car. And even then it looked like Joey was struggling that first year. I remember Joey in that Cup car, and it wasn't a pretty first year for him. Yes, he got the rain-shortened win at New Hampshire, and then he ends up winning a Cup championship a couple years ago, but it wasn't pretty in the very early days for him. So, I understand Quinn's a rookie. Getting back to Quinn Houff, he's a rookie. He's going to make a lot of mistakes, but like I said, I think NASCAR's got to do something to make sure these guys are running a certain amount of races and running in more than just one series. They should be running in 2 and 3 series before they get to the Premier Series. So we'll see how that all works out. So what we're going to do on the other side of this break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Kansas. Okay, so we had the Cup race on Thursday. We had the truck race Friday night and ARCA Friday night. I'm not going to talk about the ARCA race, but ARCA was there Friday night. And then Saturday we had the trucks and we had Xfinity. We'll get you guys all caught up on Kansas. We'll look ahead to this coming Sunday's race up in New Hampshire. And then we'll take another break after that. And we'll come back and then we'll talk about Hendrick Motorsports. So on the other side of this break, Kansas, and then we'll take another break. And then we'll give you all the latest on the Hendrick Motorsports news. This is a Crew Chiefs Corner podcast hosted by Bobby Bailey. I did not expect to talk about Quinn Houff that long, but, those things happen. So I sort of know what's going on, but I sort of don't know what's going on here. Well, that's going to process. While that does, I will drop in my next little clip. All right, that's good. If anybody has any questions, comments, anything they want to drop in, just let me know. We'll get started with the next segment here. All right, guys, this is Bobby Bailey back here on Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. So we just talked about Quinn Houff, and I promise you guys we'll talk about Kansas here. So let's start out with the big dogs. Let's start out with the Cup cars on Thursday evening. We had Denny Hamlin picking up his 5th win of the season. Hard to believe. Hamlin's been really on a roll this year. It started with the Daytona 500, and I'll be honest with you, when we started this season out, I did not think Denny Hamlin was going to be the name that we'd be talking about past the midway point of the season as someone that's a legit title contender. Harvick's one of those guys you kind of think would be in the mix. Brad Keselowski's up there this year, got a couple of wins. You have Martin Truex Jr.'s got a win. Then you have the surprises with Cole Custer, Austin Dillon. But it's really been Harvick and Hamlin this year. It's been a very interesting season. It's been a roller coaster in a lot of ways. But, this race at Kansas was very, very exciting. Ryan Blaney had the car to beat once again. I mean, how many times have we talked about Ryan Blaney this year being the car to beat and something happens to Blaney and they just, flat tires, pit road bites him sometimes, and Blaney just, he had those 2 stage wins and unfortunately it didn't all work out for him. He got messed up there. He got in the middle of the pack there during one of the restarts, got some damage, and his night was basically done with. And then he had a flat tire there late in the race, and that didn't help matters. Him and Kyle Busch had flat tires on the same lap, believe it or not, late in the going, and basically ruined both of their nights. So it really left the front of the field looking a lot different. Brad Keselowski was in the mix. He was trying to get up there and get his number 2 Ford Mustang in the mix to get a win. But Brad's car was really good on a short run. It was not a long run car. So unfortunately for Brad's sake, there was no win for him, but a big win for Denny Hamlin. But if you go back and watch it, Hamlin really stole that one away from Harvick because Harvick had the car. Um, but his car kind of got a little bit tighter on got away from him a little bit there at the end. I think it got tight on him, and he just couldn't hold the bottom anymore. And Hamlin was just rolling the top side of the track very well and stole that one away from Kevin Harvick. So Hamlin picked up his 5th win of the season. Harvick finished in the 3rd spot because Brad got around him for 2nd. So another ho-hum win for Hamlin. Another big day for him in the points. But, like I said, at the top there, it's just been one of those bizarre years that, you come to expect the unexpected. William Byron had some pit strategy there late in the race. Keith Rodden, who was filling in for Chad Knaus, made a bold pit strategy there late in the going. They took 2 tires on 2 different cautions and basically used that. And the cautions were spaced out. They were about 30 to 35 laps spread out. But the second time they did it, it didn't work out as well as the first time. So that bit William Byron, who was looking for his first career win, still chasing that. I believe now after 100-something starts in the Cup Series. So he's still looking for that elusive first win for William Byron. But that young man's going to get a win here at some point soon. They've been knocking on the door quite a bit the last few years. So we'll see where that happens. But I don't know if it's going to come in the next few weeks. So big win for Hamlin. Good day for him. Good day for a lot of guys. Guys on the bubble had some tough days. I mean, there was a big wreck in the later stages of that race that took out Matt DiBenedetto. Logano had a part break on his Shell Pennzoil Ford Mustang. He hit the wall and took out some other cars. I know Jimmy Johnson was involved in one of those wrecks. So a guy that's been on the bubble most of this year, but comfortably on the bubble, has now fallen out of the bubble. The playoff bubble, that is, and Jimmy Johnson's on the outside looking in. Then you have, guys like Tyler Reddick starting to sneak in. We've talked about Cole Custer having one of those playoff spots with his win at Kentucky. That threw a kind of a wrench in the standings. Austin Dillon winning at Texas sort of did. Austin was kind of hanging right on the outside. So I think Austin could have been in actually this week because he was 17th, I think, before he won that race. I think he was 17th or 18th in points. So he would have been right around that cutoff anyhow. But he's in as a result of his win at Texas. So 2 guys that you didn't maybe expect to be in the playoffs are in. That kind of tightens up the belts there on the playoff brackets and definitely makes it harder for the guys that don't have wins. Like I said, the Jimmy Johnsons of the world, the Matt DiBenedetto, who once again got caught up in a wreck for the 2nd week in a row. Tough break for him. That was the Newman accident. And, speaking of the Newman accident, I thought it was very tasteless that NBCSN decided to replay Ryan Newman's Daytona 500 wreck again. As if we haven't seen it 1,000 times since it happened. I just don't see the point of it. NBC, SN, I get it. They didn't have the Daytona 500 and all that. But, at the end of the day, did I really need to see that wreck again? And then see the footage of him being cut out of the car and all the stuff that they showed. I think it was just a little bit too much. I really do. I mean, I don't think we need to be reminded of every time Newman gets in an accident of how lucky Ryan is that he's alive right now. I just think that we're at that point where, it's overkill now. And I mean that in a good way. It is overkill because we've seen it 100,000 times. They play it in commercials now and stuff. And it's just, let's move on. Let's move on. Ryan's safe. He's good. His family is was by his side when he got released. It was a great story when it happened, but, let's move on. Let's move on. There's other things going on in this world that we need to be worried about than replaying the Ryan Newman wreck, 5 more times this year. So hopefully NBC doesn't play it again. Hopefully this was a one-time deal and that was that. But, you look at Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece was in a pretty violent wreck there on that late race restart where things got a little squirrely. He got hit and pounded that inside wall pretty hard. And, when I saw that wreck initially start to happen, I had an instant flashback to it. And those of you that haven't seen it, look up Jeff Fuller. I think it's 2010 Nashville Super Speedway or Kentucky, one of those two. And Jeff Fuller hits the inside wall with one of the old style Nationwide cars, inside wall, and it just, I mean, it literally destroys that car. And how Jeff got away from that, okay, I'll never know. That was a brutal hit he took. That was a absolutely brutal hit that Jeff Fuller took that night, and he hasn't been in a NASCAR race car since then. I do believe he had a concussion after that, if I'm not mistaken, but still in all, just a crazy accident. And when I saw Priest's accident, that's sort of what reminded me of it, because the violence of the wreck, how that car just got picked up, it hit the wall and it literally picked itself up off the ground, and it slammed back down, and that car's junk. I mean, that car's going to be going to, it's probably already met its maker. It's probably been in a junker already, because that's about all you can do with that car. That car is destroyed. But it's great to see Ryan Preece get out of that car. He was okay. Very, very frustrated. Been a tough year for Ryan Preece. He got out of the car and said "fantastic" on the radio, so he was pretty upset. And he's had some really rotten luck this year. As somebody that follows Ryan's career pretty closely, Ryan Preece has not had the year that he would have liked to have had, especially given that he got moved to what I considered the better of the two cars at JTG Daugherty Racing. That was a car that Buescher was in. That was a car that Buescher consistently outran Preece in from the better part of Preece's rookie year last year. So you would like to think that Preece would have been making a lot of noise in that car. So we'll see what happens. But just a rotten year for Ryan Preece, unfortunately. So then Friday comes along. We have the truck series. And I'll be honest with you, the truck race Friday night was not as exciting as a cup race. It was a good race. Congratulations to Austin Hill. He got his first win of the season. I believe it's the 5th or 6th of his racing career. So a good win for him. And what Austin Hill, I mean, you think back to the days where him and his dad owned part of the O2, the Young Motorsports team. They were partners in that, at least. And the 02 truck was really Austin's own project. And that was kind of a neat deal when he left that program and he went over to Shiggy Hattori's team and took some of the funding he had and everything else with him to partner up with Shiggy and the funding Shiggy has. They really made that deal work last year pretty well, and they were in contention to win a championship, which is hard to believe. A guy that literally a couple of years ago was driving for himself and was had flashes of brilliance, had some moments where, wow, you think Austin Hill is going to be a great race car driver, and he's been very competitive in the trucks. He's had some limited Xfinity starts, so not deeply impressed with his Xfinity stuff. But again, it's largely due to Shiggy's equipment that they have right now. Their disposal over there, HRE, is not maybe some of the greatest stuff that you've seen, but it's decent. So very, very good to see Austin get a win. And then obviously you had the Xfinity race. Brandon Jones won a thriller at Kansas, just an overtime thriller. I know my buddy Ryan Sieg was up there late in the race. They took some tire strategy. I think they took 2 tires late in the race, and Ryan's car just wasn't good enough to hold off the charge from behind of all the different guys up there. There were some really good cars. Austin Cindric was in the mix. Briscoe, I know, had a flat tire on that last restart. But then Brandon Jones came out of nowhere. I think he restarted 7th, and he went from 7th to win the race. So a good deal there for Brandon Jones. He picked up his 2nd win of the season, his 3rd career win, 2nd at Kansas. So a great day for Brandon Jones. And now you got to put him a little higher up on your playoff totem pole going forward. So we'll see how that all pans out for Brandon Jones heading towards the playoffs. And they're quickly approaching. We only got a few more races left before the playoffs begin in NASCAR in earnest. So we'll see how that all pans out for them. And then Matt Crafton, the 3-time series champ, broke a 3-year winless streak, picked up his first win at the Kansas Speedway, the 2nd race there on Saturday. So good for Matt. I know he's wanted to win races. I mean, nobody wants to go and run 3 years and not win a race. So good news for Matt Crafton. He got a win, so he's in the playoff mix now too in the trucks. So you got two really strong guys right there. You got Austin Hill, who got a win, and you have Matt Crafton now who has a win to enter into the Truck Series mix with Grant Enfinger, and I believe Sheldon Creed was the other guy that's got a win. So in the series, so the playoffs are starting to take shape over on the truck side of things, and the Cup and the Xfinity side, we had repeat winners. So no major changes there. But Hamlin now is in the catbird seat when it comes to playoff seeding. He'll be the number 1 seed as it stands right now because he has the 5 wins. So the last thing I want to talk about real quick, I know we have a few minutes left that I could talk about it. So we won't do a break in between. We'll just talk about it right here, and we'll move on to this weekend, and then we'll get you guys all set on your Thursday morning here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. Hendrick Motorsports. So there was a rumor that's been floating around on, and it got to J-Ski, it got to a couple other pages about could Hendrick Motorsports contract down to 3 teams in 2021, and they shift the Ally sponsorship to Alex Bowman. Now, there's 2 prevailing thoughts with this. The first would be that they would just put Bowman in the 48. The other thought is that they might take the 48 and not use it for a year and put Bowman with Ally and leave them in the 88 car, and possibly Noah Gragson, when he's ready, would get the 4th car at Hendrick, which would probably not be the 48. They'd probably renumber it at that time, and Noah would probably drive a renumbered either 5 or 25, and that would be the new mix over at Hendrick. I think the 3-car contraction is an interesting one. I know that COVID has thrown a monkey wrench in a lot of these drivers' plans this year. And it's not just drivers; it's crew guys, it's team owners, it's sponsors, it's the whole thing. The whole country has been affected in a lot of different ways with COVID. And I think that if we didn't have this whole thing going on, it'd be interesting to see where we're at right now. With society. As a whole, where would things be? But I think this is really, in some ways, accelerated some stuff. When you look at the retail segment, stores closing, businesses shutting down, even great performing businesses are closing locations because of the ramifications of COVID. You're dealing with higher costs, you're dealing with higher expenses, and that does have a negative impact in business. And where NASCAR kind of fits into that is, you guys that are old enough to remember what happened in 2009, 2010 with the economy when it fell apart. Sponsors kind of left NASCAR in droves. And my fear is that if we are really going to see a negative impact on businesses, and we've seen it already, but the negative impact that's come on businesses and they're shutting locations down, and a lot of this stuff that's going on is what's going to be the effect on NASCAR? What's going to be the effect on sponsorships? Is it really harder now to get sponsors because of COVID? So is it harder to sell Alex Bowman now to other companies, or would it be easier to sell Bowman to Ally and say, hey, listen, this guy's got to win this year. He's won, 2 races now, and we really feel like he's worthy of the Ally sponsorship, and we're gonna put him in your sponsored car if you guys allow us to. And then you look at the flip side and say, well, now Ally might be going to Rick and saying, listen, we can't pay all this money. I don't know. Nobody knows what the exact number is, but I'm sure Jimmy Johnson, sponsoring Jimmy is not a cheap proposition. I'm sure this wasn't a, here's $25 million, take it or leave it. I'm sure this was a multi-million dollar deal that Ally committed to with Hendrick. But I think Ally's feeling it because what are car dealers doing right now? There's car dealers, up in this area, and I'll just talk about this area because I really don't know what's going on in all over the country when it comes to car dealers. But up here, they were only allowed to reopen to appointment only. You can't just walk in a showroom right now and buy a car off the lot. You have to go and make an appointment, or you can buy a car online and they send the car to you. I'm sure the car business is down right now, and it's down big time. And so I'm sure that's affecting Ally, because Ally does a lot of auto financing. They're a bank as well, but their big bread and butter business is car loans. So if the car business is down, their business is down. And Rick Hendrick, I mean, Rick makes a lot of money as a car salesman, as a dealer. So I'm sure Rick isn't bringing in the money that he has been bringing in over the years. So what I'm trying to get at is I don't know if they're going to be able to afford Brad Keselowski. And I think that this Brad deal might be more and more headed towards a re-sign at Penske. But I think Brad's going to have to make some concessions because I don't even think Penske's sold 100% on what's going to happen in the future. Miller basically is gotten out of the sport. And what does a lot of Brad sponsors deal with? Transportation, and you got Alliance Truck Parts, which is part of Daimler, which is also Penske had a piece of that because he used to own Detroit Diesel. Okay, Wabash, they build trailers, So when you see your tractor trailers, there's a good shot. There's probably at least 20 to 25% shot that trailer that tractor is pulling is a Wabash trailer, and the front of it is probably a Freightliner, which again Daimler. So that's where some of the Alliance Truck Parts deals come in from. So you look at that. Yeah, PPG paint. People aren't painting their cars and painting their houses as much now. Maybe they're painting their houses a little bit more because they had more home time, with COVID shutdowns. But, you look at a lot of these businesses are suffering. And I'm sure that NASCAR is going to be on the backside of this at some point in time. And that there is going to be a ripple, whether it's next year or the year after. I think within the next couple of years, we'll see some kind of a COVID-related ripple in NASCAR. And hopefully it's not as bad as the one that we saw in 9 and 10, where we see a lot of blank cars. We see a lot of people that literally are going to take very low funded deals to keep their teams afloat so that they can keep some people employed. So, and hopefully the layoffs aren't going to be massive. I mean, we know there's going to be a big layoff in the offing because once NASCAR goes to a single chassis manufacturer, which is been pretty widely reported, a lot of these teams are going to have no use for these fabricators, and there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to lose their jobs within the next 2 years. So that's just kind of the grim reality when it comes to NASCAR. It's going to happen that way. So we'll see what happens with that, but I do think that that's part of the reason why this Hendrick deal is one to watch. And one to keep an eye out for, because I think it's going to be a little bit of a foresight into the future. I really do. What's going to happen in the next couple of years. And I do think there is going to be some contracting going on in this sport as it is. And there's a pretty good possibility we'll lose a top team next year, which is sad. You don't want to see teams leave. You want to see teams being added in. But if you're going to lose one of the cars at Hendrick, I guess the smaller teams are going to be struggling to get by. So we'll see how that all pans out. But not a fun thing to talk about, but something that you have to look at. You have to look at it because it's part of the world we're living in right now. It's part of society. It's part of what we're all dealing with. So that's kind of the grim reality of the other side of this. Is the economic impact on the sport, and I think it's one we're going to feel for the next few years. I really do. I think we're going to feel it in a lot of ways the next couple of years here. So this weekend, to try to transition to a positive note, this weekend we have the Cup Series up in New Hampshire. It is just the Cup cars. There's no Xfinity and trucks up in New Hampshire. No, there are fans allowed. It's a limited amount of fans, and you have to wear a face mask at the racetrack. So I know those of you that are interested in going, you can go. It's a limited amount of folks. I think it's somewhere in the 30% capacity range. And you have to wear a mask. So those are all the things you need to know about that. The entry list is up 38 cars, this weekend at New Hampshire. And then we had the Daytona Road Course coming up soon too. So looking forward to that. So that was all I have for an action-packed episode here of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. I am Bobby Bailey. And as always, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the race on Sunday. We will be back hopefully later in the week. I'll give you guys a heads up now. I'm probably not going to do an episode until at least Friday evening next week. I am going to be away a little bit on my real job. Got a little bit of a business thing I got to do, so I'm going to be away for about a week. But I will try to get. I'll keep you guys up to date. I can keep you guys up to date as far as entry list and all that stuff. But I won't be able to do anything Facebook Live related or anything like that because I'm not going to bring my laptop or equipment with me. That's all going to stay here at home. So we will be back with you guys probably later next week. We'll break down New Hampshire. We'll give you guys all the latest news and notes, and we'll bring you up to speed next Friday on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. One last little shout out. Did you know you can watch this live? So there's a couple people that saw this live on Twitch. So if you go Twitch TV, okay, twitch.tv/Giants, like the football team, 02122, you can watch all of our episodes live. They get streamed on Twitch. And then we also are on YouTube as well. So you go to YouTube, you search Crew Chiefs Corner, hit the subscribe button. You can subscribe to Crew Chiefs Corner and you'll get notified every time we go live. And you'll also get notified when the videos get posted. So you guys will be able to see this episode live recorded, and you'll get to see some of the in-between stuff that we do. Sometimes I talk about the diecasts that are sitting here behind me. If you're watching on the stream, you'll see that there's a wall of diecast behind me. So usually talk about some of these, sometimes in the middle of the breaks and stuff like that, and other racing-related stuff. So check us out on that. Obviously, all the social that we're on will follow this episode, this little ending here. So we'll catch you guys probably Friday evening, if I had to guess. Just depends on when everything wraps up with me on my real business trip. And then we will catch you guys on Friday evening, get you guys caught up on New Hampshire. We'll get you guys caught up on all the latest news. Check out this page. We will keep you guys up to date for this weekend. And then, like I said, Facebook Live, hopefully tomorrow evening, and then we'll do on the following Friday as well. So until next time, be safe, be well, stay cool for those of you that are in the sweltering heat. Like I said, it's been very, very humid up here in the Northeast the last couple weeks. It's just all of a sudden like appeared on our doorstep. It was very, very bizarre this year. So be well. We'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the races this weekend. Enjoy the race on Sunday, really. Okay? Enjoy the race on Sunday. Hopefully you guys get a chance to go catch up on last week's races if you didn't get to watch it. And we'll see you next time. All right, that was that ending. That's going to upload. All right, being that we got a couple people here, I am going to show you guys. I don't know if I showed you guys on the last episode, but we got a couple diecast in. And I'm just going to get them down real quick. Don't mind me standing up. All right, so first diecast I got in. We got the Stuart Friesen. We got the race win. This is his Eldora win, believe it or not. So we got this in the other day. It is autographed in black. Not the best autograph color choice, but decent autograph. So we got Stewie Friesen's first career Truck Series win there. Then the other diecast I got in, we got Matt D. Benedetto. So Matty D here, the 21 Menards car. This is the Elite model. So this is the hood open, trunk open. Trunk opens, unlike the ARC models. But again, when you have them displayed, you can't really tell the difference. I just like the Elite models anyhow. And this is DIN number 76 of 78 made. So kind of cool that we have that. Put this back on the bottom shelf here because I'll put them up after the episode. And then the last car I got, this was actually on Lionel had a Christmas in July sale. So I got in this Brad Keselowski dual autograph. So this is Brad on the front windshield. And then on the rear, we have Paul Wolfe. So this was his 2018 win at Indy. And as you can tell, it has a little bit of the yellowing. This was a common issue that Lionel had in 2018 and early 2019 with the white. Specifically, it seemed to yellow. And on this particular model, it looked like it yellowed pretty good too. So, one of those things you just got to deal with, unfortunately. But not as bad as some of the ones I've seen. Some of the ones I've seen are really bad. and the weight's really, really bad. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in on Twitch and also on YouTube. We will catch you guys, like I said, next week. We'll be coming to you live on Friday, probably Friday evening for everything, Facebook Live, and also the live podcast recording. So this is basically what the live record is. If you guys ever want to chime in, you guys can do that in the comment sections. We will get to you guys, like I said, either in between breaks or when the podcast is over. I usually try to spend a minute or two to talk. And, we'll catch you guys next time. Enjoy the races on Sunday at New Hampshire. It is just the Cup Series this weekend. So we'll catch you next time.